Good morning once again from Beijing. Ali's just realized something and jumped up to get it. Hi, Trevor. Good morning or good evening. Actually, it's good morning for you too, isn't it? So, yeah, good morning.
Sorry, I
Hi,
just
Ali. What happened?
my camera was sliding down, so I had to pop
Oh,
it up.
okay. You caught it in time. Good.
Yeah,
Well, here we are in China. It's the last day of the two sessions, so it's a pretty important day for us. They're wrapping up the two sessions. They're going to be talking about the next. Well, they've talked a lot about the next 5-year plan. What's happening with you in Australia?
I think that's good. The next 5-year plan. Let's see what comes out of it. I'm sure there will be a lot of focus on economic progress and technology. I guess in Australia, I not much is happening, except we are sending Australian troops to the war now. So that was announced.
I saw that it was 85 Air Force personnel who were going with a wedge tail, which is like the AWACS type thing. Is that right?
Correct. So again, no one has condemned the attack on Israel or the crime of killing all those schoolgirls. It's amazing how, if you look at the statements from UK government and Australian government, it's as if someone has given them a script. This is all you have to say. Just avoid talking about the school strike. Avoid talking about that who attacked whom first. Just say that we have to defend our allies. And when asked a question whether this is against the international law, the answer seems to be it's up to our allies to decide. We just have to help our allies. So that seems to be the standard response from everyone from UK to Australia. I'm guessing from New
I was
Zealand
look,
also.
I was looking at Reuters this morning. I'm not sure how accurate Reuters is, but it claims that the US has now investigated itself. There is an ongoing investigation about that school thing, and they have come to the conclusion that they did indeed do it, and they did it using outdated digital data. So the school they're claiming was not a school when they first mapped it, or perhaps they're claiming it's their mapping was wrong. I'm not sure. I do know for a fact that Google is misplacing people. Uh, and I'm not sure how that is done or how easy that's done. But I'm also aware that Google Maps in China is not very accurate. So it is possible to interfere. And China obviously does that. So what I've found, if I look for example, if I were to look for my house in China on Google Maps, I don't get it. I never find my house. I'm always offline somewhere, and it's not like I can just go, oh yeah, I'm 20 meters offline. As soon as I move 20 meters, I'm still 20 meters away. So there's something going on there, and technicians would be able to explain better. But it seems that even delivery drivers in places like Dubai are having trouble delivering because they're looking at their map, and the person they're looking at is in the middle of the ocean or the middle of the desert when they're actually in a community somewhere. So there's something going on there. It is possible that a mistake was made, but definitely the US have now admitted that it was a US weapon and it was the US that did it.
Yeah, so I was listening to Scott Ritter 3 or 4 days ago when the strike happened. I think probably a couple of days after that. He used to be in intelligence and used to be nuclear arms inspector as well. So he
Yep.
was saying that this most likely has been caused by America. It is based on outdated intelligence. He told everybody that probably exactly when it happened. And the reason for that was they're probably trying to use AI, or they haven't really updated their 12-year-old maps. So, but if you go to Google, Google clearly says there was a school, Google Street View. So
So
there was
Google
no
still
confusion
says that
about
was a
that.
school.
Yeah. So there was no confusion about it. The second thing was that uh, Israel, I mean, almost always employs this tactic of destroying civilian infrastructure, schools, hospitals, these kind of buildings, government buildings. So most people thought that, okay, this is a scare tactic. First strike on Iran, trying to scare its people into submission. That actually had an opposite effect. But we know, I mean, they commit war crimes. there's a warrant out for Netanyahu. What else do you need?
That's
But
true.
yeah, they've committed
Yeah.
war crimes in Iraq. They've committed war crimes in Afghanistan and
We
Pakistan.
know that they have been
Many
alleged to commit
civil.
war crimes. They haven't been
Yeah,
found guilty as yet, but sure.
yeah, you can't. Yeah, they haven't
To,
investigated themselves before. Yeah, they've been like more than 100,000 people killed in Afghanistan and Pakistan because of these war crimes, where they've bombed wedding ceremonies or
yeah,
schools, thinking that these are likely to be terrorists. Children have died as well. So
of course. Yeah. And there's two other aspects of this. One is that Trump claiming that it was Iran's missile that did it. And then, after being challenged on that by a very brave media reporter who's probably no longer in the White House press pool, he was challenged on that and asked, are you suggesting that Iran stole the Tomahawk missile? Because it sure looks like a Tomahawk missile did it. So, first of all, it was Iran did it. And secondly, other countries have got Tomahawks. It wasn't necessarily us. But in fairness to him, and I don't often like to be fair to Trump because he's such a buffoon, but he did actually say, I am prepared to wait for the investigation. We're investigating that now. Now, I wonder what he's going to say now. Probably nothing at all. Probably now that they've established that it was America, they'll just write that off. Um, there was
yeah,
another
but it's
aspect of
amazing.
it. Go
Yeah, but
on.
this has happened time and time again. The reason they do it is because they know there's no accountability for them. So it has happened
Mm.
multiple times in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in Iraq. So has anybody gone to jail? No. And if even if you before that journalist questioned Trump, he was questioned on Air Force One, and Pete Hegseth was standing behind him. And Pete
Yep.
Hegseth clearly said that it's only Iran who targets its own civilians. So let's say if you flip that logic, let's say IDF is attacking its own Israeli citizens, and all the bombing that you see in Israel of the civilian buildings, they've been done by IDF. How would that story look? If you just flip it
Well,
around.
we actually have a parallel already because on October the 7th, they've admitted they used the Hannibal Directive, or it
Yeah.
has been admitted by some. It hasn't been officially admitted, but it's certainly
There
been
will never be an
declared exposed.
investigation. Yeah, they
And
don't
yeah,
allow
it's been written
journalists to
about in
investigate.
Israeli media. They employed the Hannibal Directive, and there's no question about it from the amount of damage done that the Israelis did kill many people on October the 7th. So it's not only the Iranians that do it, which is a quote, not a statement. Um, it's not just them, and I think it has to be a lot uh, more coverage of this. Um, Iran reckons that the oil price is going to go to $200. It's now, I think it was 130 a couple of days ago. It went down a little bit. It's been fluctuating up and down. What do you reckon on that? What's that going to do to Australian
Yeah,
oil prices?
I mean, in some parts of Australia, smaller parts, there's already a limit. You cannot get petrol more than $20. So, in Pakistan, they've closed down all schools and colleges because there's fuel
Wow.
shortage. Uh, I'm guessing India will be the same. Uh, Thailand also, most of the schools have gone online, as far as I know. Uh, I mean, it impacts everybody. I think you have to look at it from American perspective. They thought that they can take that strike on Iran and then just put Iran into submission. I don't know who advised Trump that that would happen. Iran is like 5,000-year-old civilization. I know every civilization dies, but it's a big country, 90 million people, different ethnicities. It's a massive country compared to Iraq. So how
Mm.
would you? And also the government structure is different. They thought it's an autocracy. It's not an autocracy. People don't realize that it's a democracy, or actually a republic, I guess, because they do elect their president. Just like in UK, you've got king, but in UK it's the royal family. In Iran, it's the supreme leader, and the supreme leader will be elected as well. And then there's another layer of government which will be elected by voting. But in this case, supreme leader's son has become another supreme leader, which is not democratic decision. But I think they had no choice because when the first strike happened, they killed the two uh, uh, lower layers of people who were supposed to be the next in line. So
Yeah.
I guess Iran didn't have any choice. So it's amazing. America thought it would probably take at least 2 or 3 days for Iran to say, okay, we give up, don't bomb
Mm.
us. But no, it hasn't happened. They clearly underestimated. But Iran is suffering quite a bit. There's a lot of bombing going on in Iran, so their infrastructures are being bombed. Desalination plant, oil refinery, another school was bombed, and there was a video on YouTube where children were trying to 8-year-old children, 7-year-old children were trying to protect 4 3-year-old children, and one child died straight when the strike happened, and the smaller children were going, younger children were going to see whether he's alive or not, trying to shake him, but then running away because the bombing was still happening.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It
everything
does
is
look
going
like
on.
their strategy is to bomb somewhere, then check how many people go to the region, and then bomb it
Correct.
again.
Yep,
And they
yep.
did
There's
that
another
with
video of
this
that.
whole
They call it double
double
tap.
tap.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. But yeah,
Um,
Iran is suffering quite a bit. There's no doubt.
It looks like it, but it does appear to me that Iran is holding out better than anyone expected. That's an appearance just from my perspective of reading media. I'm not connected to anyone in Iran, but from just reading various different media, it sure looks like it's holding out better than expected. Um, so $11 billion a day is what the US reckon that this is costing. I would say it's probably going to cost a hell of a lot more than that in the long run. Uh, we've already seen. I saw a video yesterday of somebody saying petrol is $5 a gallon now, and they're a bit upset by that because $5 a gallon is probably I don't know. The gallon in America is different to the gallon in Britain, but it's probably 5 or 6 liters, or maybe 4 liters. I'm not sure. But yeah, that seems pretty cheap still to me compared to Australia, where it's now $2.20 a liter. Is that right?
$2.20 a liter. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Australia always
And
had
now you tell
expensive.
me some places are rationed because I also
Yeah.
saw the government saying this is not a problem of supply. We have plenty of supply. This is a problem of hoarding. People are going there and just filling up everything that every container they have with a lid on it, and then leaving the fuel stations. But I know that can't be true because in Australia you have very strict rules about what kind of container you can sell petrol in. So you can't just go out there with a very liquid bottle and fill it with oil. You have to have a
It evaporates.
proper
Fuel
plastic,
is going
proper
to
steel.
evaporate. Even yeah, it evaporates. So even if you put it in plastic bottles,
Mm,
there's going to be some evaporation leakage. Yeah. So it has to be properly sealed, double-walled containers, things like that.
okay.
Also, there's a risk of explosion and fire as well. So, and if you're in a dry season in Australia, it's a massive risk.
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to impact. There's two different aspects to this going on at the moment. With this happening, America has no money to put into farmers, and I see that farmers in several different states now are saying we're going to lose 30% of our farmland. We're out. We're leaving the farm now because after the 7 generations or 5 generations, they can't keep up, and the farming is just no longer profitable. And one of the reasons is they've got no money, obviously, but they can't get fertilizer. And fertilizer comes as a byproduct of oil, or a lot of it does. So this is a big problem for farmers. It's going to affect Australia as well in that respect. Now they're saying that the farmers can't get the fuel that they need for the harvest season that's just about to hit. Are you getting any news about that?
Yeah, yeah. And also the thing about the cost of war. Imagine if all that money was spent on improving the infrastructure in America, schools,
Mm,
colleges, roads, suburbs, parks, or providing proper social welfare for people who actually need it, or job assistance. But no, I think American psyche is very different. And I think what I've noticed is time and time again, Americans are very happy to sacrifice their own to protect Israel. I've even seen their own leaders say that again and again, that even if the White House or Washington burns down, we will make sure that Israel is protected. So, I mean, it's okay if it's their policy to sacrifice their own for Israel. I'm okay with that. It's their policy, and I'm happy that they want to do that. But I see that Australia is going in that direction as well. So Australian people um, uh, can be sacrificed. There was an airstrike on last year, a humanitarian, I think Palestinian humanitarian shelter. Australian was killed by an Israeli airstrike, and by all
Hmm.
means, it was a war crime because everybody knew there was a United Nations humanitarian shelter for refugees or food distribution center. But Israel targets all these centers, so there's a consistent, sense of fear among the Palestinians, and they killed aid worker who was Australian. Hardly anyone asked any questions from Australia, and that lady's family is still waiting for answers. And then Israel stole Australian passports and used those stolen identities to kill Iranian nuclear scientists as well. Hardly anyone from Australia questioned it.
That was quite a few
Israel,
years ago, that Australian
quite a few
passport
years
issue,
ago,
wasn't it?
but that's something that came out in public. Imagine how much doesn't come out in public.
Yeah, that's true. What do
That's
we
the thing.
not know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
That's the thing.
a big
So
worry.
that's scary if you want to sacrifice your own. Again, if Australia makes it its policy, then it's okay. But I think, yeah, but most of the leaders are like that anyway. So not sure
I
what
think
the
it's
way
going to come
forward
to
is.
a time where voters in any democratic country, voters are going to have to say, and I'm seeing this more and more, America first or Israel first, being asked of people in Congress, in the Senate. And some of them are actually saying Israel first. Now, I'm not entirely sure why that would be, why they would admit to that. But the fact is, I think voters need to know. It's come to the stage now where you can't just say, okay, I like this politician. You have to say, does this politician represent me or another country? Now, if any politician anywhere protected China in the same way, can you imagine how long their career would last? It would be amazing. Or even Russia. But Israel seems to be an ally that they not only can support, but they can actually support to the greater good of their better good than their own country.
Yeah, and we've seen they are shifting all the air defense systems from their West Asia Gulf countries and letting their
Hmm.
own military bases being bombed and shifting them to Israel. Also, I heard a report 2 days ago they've transferred some defense system from South Korea to Israel.
Yep. Yeah,
Uh,
the thermal
uh,
high altitude
yeah,
defense system, the
yeah,
THAAD.
yeah.
Yeah, it's being
Imagine
moved. And
uh, how much
what
destruction
does
is
this
happening in
tell us?
Israel.
If you are sorry, if you are an ally of America, and America needs you for its defense in a certain region, the fact that they've taken away the defense now, this now they're saying, well, this will embolden Kim in North Korea. Well, I doubt if it will, because Kim is probably a little bit like Xi Jinping in China. We don't want to go across. I'm talking figuratively. They don't want to go across and murder or kill their own people. And this is the same thing. I've been saying this from the moment this Iran conflict started. People have been talking about Taiwan now. Taiwan's at a huge risk because America is occupied doing something else and China will take advantage. No, China will not invade. China will not attack. China will not blockade. China will not do anything except be a normal, responsible member of society. And I'm not sure if Kim will do the same, but there's no reason on earth to suspect that he won't. He doesn't want a renewal or reopening of the existing civil war that created the peninsula being cut in half. Neither does China.
Yeah.
China don't want a reopening. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people in China who do. I'm sure there are people in China who say that Xi Jinping is far too weak, far too soft, and they want Taiwan back. Once they got Taiwan back, they'll feel whole and complete again. There are those people for sure, but this is not government policy. But what does it tell
Yeah,
us about the
I think
government policy when Oman, Dubai, Kuwait,
Qatar,
UAE,
Jordan,
all of these places that are holding military assets of the United States are now being attacked?
yeah.
That
I'll answer
that
it in two
clearly
parts.
shows a message.
Yeah, I'll answer it in two parts. First, I want to add something about Taiwan. China considers Taiwan part of China. China can wait. I think if you look at Chinese philosophy, if you talk to Chinese people, they don't want any friction between Taiwan and China by taking it forcefully. They are very happy to wait because they know Taiwanese are sort of warming up to the idea of being reunited with China, mainly because of the economic prosperity that's happening in China. So any hostile takeover will bring friction, and their families on both sides. And you don't want to, have one family member fighting with the family with the same with another family member. So I think China is very happy to wait, and I don't think anyone can stop China unifying Taiwan. So I don't think China is in any hurry at this point. With regards to all these Gulf countries, they invest a lot of money in American economy also. So all the AI buzz, the data centers, most of the monies come from Middle East. They have also spent money in Israeli economy also, all these Gulf countries. So it's fascinating to see, I mean, an outside observer can see that America's priority is to save Israel, not a Muslim Gulf country. They openly say Arabs are dogs or Muslims are uncultured, openly. But still, these Gulf countries don't realize it. Why? Because the military bases are there not to protect them, but to protect their own monarchies from their own people who would rebel against them. Because all these Gulf countries are monarchies. There was Arab Spring in 2010. It was suppressed quite forcefully. That's one of the reasons why these Gulf countries don't really want a Palestine, because Palestine wants to be a democracy. Like in Egypt, Muslim Brotherhood, Muhammad Morsi, Dr. Muhammad Morsi, I think, he was democratically elected, very popular. He was overthrown straight away by America. We don't want democracy here. Syria, the same. Palestine also, they don't want any democracy. So they just want to maintain the status quo, maintain their own superiority in their own region. So this has backfired significantly upon them, because now they know even if they give money, pump money into American and Israeli economy, try to be their watchdogs or friends or poodle, whatever you want to call them, no one is going to
Mm.
protect them. Yeah, the protection needs to go to Israel, which is okay. If it's a policy, I'm okay with that. But at least it's very overt now. Most people realize it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. People are coming to the realization that life has changed. This is not America is not keeping anybody safe. America is making people targets, painting a target on the middle of Australia. Bang, Pine Gap would be. I would expect Pine Gap. I mean, it must be one of the most highly defended places in the world just by its remoteness. But China can reach it quite comfortably. I'm fairly
Yeah,
certain Russia could as well. But in and
but
there's
that's what I
probably a
was
couple
saying.
of yeah.
Correct, correct.
There's
That's what I was
there's
thinking
probably a
as well.
couple of ballistic submarines as well sitting off the coast of China, and they're not
Yeah,
all American, and they're certainly not Australian.
because yeah, because the way China is being portrayed as warmonger country, this is the best opportunity for China to take out America. I mean, America is busy fighting Iran.
Well,
If China
if
is actually,
China was warlike, yes,
yeah,
we're
exactly.
getting this couple of little prices here. Someone put up the this is tonnes $3 a liter in New Zealand, but I think so far this is 230 euro in Netherlands. That's pretty high. Your 220 a liter, which is a lot less than I think that's about half of the price in the Netherlands. So Europe is really getting hammered hard, really getting
Europe
hammered.
is
I want to show
dominating iron
something. I
anyway.
got this.
Yep.
I'm gonna put this on the screen. In the A couple of days ago, Wang Yi, who is kind of foreign affairs minister here, uh, made a 90-minute presentation and response to journalists. And his this has come from the from CGTN. This picture, this graph, the most used words and phrases. He said China 97 times because when people refer to China, they don't refer to us or we, they say our China, they call it our country. So he said that a lot, which is it, understandable given the nature of the language. But take a look at the next words: development, world, cooperation, people, peace, stability. United Nations got a lot of mentions. Economy, opening up, global south, security, history. Almost everything is cooperation. Almost everything is about global peace, doing better for the world, cooperating and participating and growing together. So it's been very interesting to see how these two countries see it so differently. The United States, I mean, three countries really. Russia is saying very similar things to this, which strikes me as a British guy growing up with this anti-Russian sentiment because of the Cold War when I grew up. I lived through the 60s and the 70s, and then I grew up. I matured with Glasnost and the kind of opening up of the USSR, or the collapse of the USSR is probably a better way. So I still have this mental thing in my head that the Russians are really evil people, even though I know that that's not true. It's ingrained so deeply. It's surprising to me when I hear Russia talking about cooperation, but it doesn't surprise me with China. This doesn't surprise me at all. You're muted, Ali.
I think that makes absolute sense that China wants to focus on development and progress. There's a very good clip going around on YouTube of uh, a German leader coming to China and be greeted by unitary robots. And he was going to go back to China, to Germany, and think, okay, we haven't done anything, any sort of this kind of development. We've just been waging wars and wars and wars. So that's why I say Europe is on a downward spiral, I guess. And also China, the question of China helping Iran. I was listening to, I forgot the name of that person. He's a Chinese government official. He said very clearly, it's not China's policy to have military bases in other countries. We don't make military strategic alliances. We only make trade alliances. And that's how we have always grown. In terms of help, China can help in other ways as well. And China is helping. The satellite system that Iran is using is the Baidu satellite system. Weapons are being tested in Israel and around the Gulf countries. They are probably made with the help of China and Russia as well. So China is helping in that way. China doesn't really believe in, I think, sending its own people to die for other people, like Americans or Australians think, I guess, which is really good.
No, that's never going to
You don't
happen.
want your people to die. Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
we can be quite confident in saying China is never going to send the People's Liberation Army to another country to help defend that other country. It's never going to happen. It has a policy of non-interference. If asked, it will provide defensive mechanisms. What China does do is it provides the largest number of United Nations peacekeepers. Now, until recently, America, I haven't seen figures in the last 12 months, the United States provided the largest amount of funding to UN peacekeeping. But my understanding is that the US have not paid their dues. So they're not, they say they provide, but they don't provide in a timely manner, and they don't provide it effectively. So it's China that's holding up the end of its bargain, and it provides the highest number of peacekeepers. So when people say that the Chinese government has, or the Chinese military has absolutely no experience, that's not true. They have a hell of a lot of experience as peacekeepers, literally thousands of them. There's 10,000 on standby at any given time, and there's thousands of them in operation somewhere around the world whenever the United Nations needs them. So yeah, Lome, this is a good name. Old America. Only May means beautiful. America literally means beautiful. Megwo means beautiful country. So yeah, all talk and no pay. And this is a fact. They're not very good corporate citizens. They're not very good law-abiding citizens legally, internationally either.
Yeah. Again, the psychology of Americans and Chinese are very different. You can see based on the amount of progress they've done and social infrastructure, it's a really telling sign. But again, like I say, if their policy is to protect another country and people are okay with it, then it's okay. meaning they are achieving their objective. Uh,
Mm.
and I mean, the way I see it is, and I've mentioned that many times before, that America is only keeping the seat warm for Israel because Israel will become a big superpower. They're very smart and they are sort of genocidal maniacs, so they don't really care about uh, killing people in masses. So when you have that kind of power, you will become a superpower in that region. Uh, and then they have that Greater Israel project as well, which interestingly, Mike Huckabee, US envoy to Israel, who should have been Israel envoy to US, but he's actually US envoy to Israel. He said that it would be fine if Israel takes all that land, most of that Middle East land. And that land includes Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, parts of Turkey, parts of Saudi Arabia, because he thinks God gave that land to Israelis. Again, that's just religious mumbo jumbo. First, there's no international law. If there's an international law like that, that all Indians are probably they can claim that Australia belongs to Indians because Indians are
Australia
probably
belongs to Indian.
yeah. But
That's an interesting one.
if you bring in religion, then yeah, then Australians should get out and Indians should come in over here. So I think they believe in all
Okay.
that religious mumbo jumbo. So
One
which is
last
really
question before
weird.
we move off the Middle
Yeah,
East. You highlighted something the other day, and I haven't got a link to it, but Chuck Schumer was caught on the hop outside of one of
yeah,
these briefing meetings and asked about Israel, and he said, "Well, no one wants a nuclear war." And
yeah.
then he stepped back from that and says no one wants a forever war and no one wants a nuclear armed Israel, but he actually meant a nuclear armed Iran. So
He came
it
back
looks
to
like
correct
people are
himself.
just they're putting the word Israel and nuclear together and war and nuclear together, and that's a very worrying development because that's a kind of a Tourette's syndrome. They're making the mistake of joining these words together uncontrollably, which is a bit of a worry.
It is. It is. And I hope it doesn't happen. But if Israel is pressed, they will use nukes. They have that
Mm,
Samson directive, not just on Israel, on Iran, but on other countries as well. So no one can retaliate. That's the thing, and no one can
mm.
stop them. We see UK and France joining the war as well. Um Again, it's so weird. I want to play a clip that just tells you the mentality of Americans. See if I can get a share screen.
Okay. While you're doing that, I just want to bring this up and address this. China will lose partners because it's unwilling to protect them from US pressure. That is actually not true at all. China's partnerships are growing rapidly. Rapidly. They just released figures 2 days ago that show that their year-on-year sales are up, international sales are up by 7%, but US sales are down. So they have actually diversified their markets and they're selling more to more countries. Now, the reason this is not true, this is a very, very common misconception. I'm not saying anyone is wrong for thinking this. The partners who China partners with do not expect protection from China because China has never promised them protection. America promises protection. The UK used to promise protection and then they would deliver exploitation. China says, we're going to do business with you. Are you happy with doing business with us? Do you recognize one China is a massive part of the of their trade relations? And if they do recognize one China, then China will do business with them, but has never ever promised or suggested that they would be protecting them from anything. It is up to every country. China has a well stated, well documented non interference policy, so it's not going to protect its partners. And all of its partners know this. It's not going to lose a partner because it didn't protect them, because it's never promised it was going to. And all the partners know this. No partner has ever called on China. A lot of people said this when Venezuela went down and then when Iran started. A lot of people said, well, why doesn't China protect them? Because those countries don't expect and have never asked for protection from China. They do trade with China, and some of the things they buy are related to military, but they don't expect protection from China. So they're not going to lose partners. Now, there may be people in the world who feel differently, but governments know this. So I just wanted to address that before it's a very deep-rooted misconception about China. So, Mr. Eman, sorry, it's not correct, but I understand why you think it. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's the
you wanted
mindset,
to
I guess,
bring,
in many countries,
yeah.
in many people's mindset. Again, because not to their own fault, or they think that if there's a big brother, the big brother should protect younger brother. But China's philosophy
Mm.
again is very different. Can you see the screen?
Yep, it's
Okay.
up.
Compiled by our friends at CNN of the varying explanations for war from the administration. Chris.
And we may have casualties. That often happens in war.
I don't know if this is technically a war.
We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it.
This isn't a war. We haven't declared war.
The Secretary of Defense, who calls himself the Secretary of War, said today this is a war.
We set the terms of this war from start to finish.
Nobody should classify this as war. It is combat operations.
War is hell and always will be.
Strategic strikes are not war.
I mean, some of this is absurd.
Yeah.
So is it a war? Is it a combat operation? Is it a strategic strike? So everybody's confused in America, and they didn't start it. So you can see the mentality.
Mm. So, yeah, Mr. Eman has come up with an answer to my comment. That philosophy will ensure China will always be weaker than the US. Well, I'm very sorry, but it's already proven that economically China is stronger, much stronger than the US. So this is not correct, not correct at all. I'm not going to waste much more time on that. Sorry, go on with your comment.
Yeah. So again, it seems like there was probably no coherent strategy when Israel and America attacked Iran. I know Israel wanted to attack Iran because Israel wants to be the hegemony in the region, and it may become a superpower one day. But Iran is still very powerful, and they still have a lot of weapons. It's a really miscalculation on the part of Americans, I guess, to go into a war thinking they can finish it in 2 or 3 days. But they are doing a lot of destruction in Iran, which will take Iran back many years, and Iran will have to rebuild itself. So that is part of the play. Another part of the play, I think, is by attacking Venezuela as leader and attacking Iran. It's an indirect strike on China as well, because both Iran and Venezuela, they do a lot of trade with China. So it's sort of a way of saying that we still don't want China to progress. I'm not sure if they can curtail China's progress, but it's a covert way of saying that we don't want China to progress by trading with different countries around the world. So I think
one of the issues that Americans believe is that China relies heavily on Venezuelan and Iranian oil, and they've taken that away. Therefore, they're going to slow China down. That is not at all true. China took up the slack when both these countries were sanctioned, and China said, well, that's no problem for us because we don't need to comply with these. These are not UN sanctions. A UN sanctioned country China won't deal with, but a sanctioned country by a unilateral sanction, which the US is doing, China says, well, this is not legal, this is not lawful, we can deal with you. So they're buying things from Russia, selling things to Russia. They're buying things and selling things to and from Iran. They're buying things and selling things to and from Venezuela and Cuba and a few others. Sorry, not Cuba. They don't deal with Cuba except in a humanitarian aid because that's a UN sanction. So, and unfortunately can't get removed, even though 99% of the world seem to want it removed, or 94% or whatever the number is. It's a lot. Most of the country want Cuba to be freed up, but America keeps saying no, and America and Israel and a couple of others will vote against that to prevent it being a unanimous decision. So the issue with China is that it's mostly oil from both those countries. There's very little else coming from Iran or Venezuela. And now America is controlling the Venezuelan oil. It's still selling to China. So if their idea was to slow China's growth, why are they still selling that oil to China? That's not the cause at all. It was to control the oil and control the monetary flow of that oil in US dollars, the petrodollar. With Iran, it's slightly different because Iran and the Iranian Guard has said they will allow Chinese flagged, Iranian flagged, and any flag that has rejected America and Israel is now allowed free passage in and out of the Straits of Hormuz. Now, the British are not, the French are not. The Thai government, Thailand lost a ship the other day. So this is because they are not aligned with the peace side of things. They are aligned with the war side of things. Now, what China does is it has 16 million barrels a day of oil usage. That's how much oil China uses. It currently produces 4 million, so 25% of its own needs are domestic. It can ramp that up to 8 million. It chose not to. It may start doing so now. It chose not to because they decided that they were not going to bring the price down if they were doubling their production and buying half as much from overseas. It would fluctuate the prices, and that hurts the global economy and it hurts China's economy, the changing prices. So they also bring in from Russia by pipe. They bring it in from Kazakhstan by pipe. They bring it in by train. So they're still getting Iranian oil. They're still getting Venezuelan oil. They're still getting, and they can ramp up by their pipeline deliveries and their train deliveries, and they can ramp up their own production. So far, we've seen there's no rationing going on. David Fishman, a guy who works in this industry, he's on X as pretentious what? Then that guy knows this stuff. And he says, basically, energy production does not rely on oil anymore. More than 50% of our energy in China comes from solar and wind, 50%. So production does, but energy production doesn't. So it's not a huge problem. It's a challenge. It's a difficulty. And we also in China has a minimum of 1.8 billion barrels. 1.8 billion barrels, and it uses 16 million a day in its strategic reserves, 1.8 billion barrels. So it's still getting oil, it's still getting gas. Most of the gas comes from either Qatar, which it can't get anymore if the ships are blocked, but it's still getting ships coming out. So the rest of it comes from Australia and some from the US. It's still coming in. So they've still got gas, they've still got the sunshine, they've still got the wind, they've still got the water. They still got lots and lots of nuclear, and they can ramp up what they need, and they have a diminishing amount of fuel requirement. Every single year, half the cars that are bought, new cars that are bought, are EVs. So there's a diminishing amount of fuel needed. This is not hampering China's ability to progress, at least not in terms of its oil. And it's certainly not affected China's international global business because, well, we've just seen the figures come out for January, February, and there's no difference between what's happening so far in March.
Yeah,
So I think a lot of people have this misconception.
Yeah, China takes around 80 to 90% of Iran's oil, which makes up 10% of Chinese imports. So it's not much. It's
not
okay.
much.
It's
And it was
reasonable. It's not
2%
that
from
much.
Venezuela.
But yeah, Venezuela was even lower than that, 2 to 4%. So it doesn't really make much dent. Also, China is trying to be self-sufficient when it comes to energy. All these nuclear, solar, wind projects that they are doing, they realize that an autonomy of a country largely depends upon being autonomous in energy production. And if you look at Europe really doesn't really have autonomy because it doesn't really have autonomy of energy production. So I want to share one thing before we move on
Sure.
to the other one, and that's the so-called independent media. Let me know when you see the screen.
I can see it. I can add it to the stage there.
Yeah. So
You'll recognize some of the names and faces. They apparently got the talking points because they all use the same one, cut number 2.
This is a short-term disruption for the long-term gain.
Short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Short-term for long-term gain.
We're going to have some short-term pain with long-term gain.
Some short-term pain, yes, but we've got some long-term gain.
Some short-term pain for American consumers.
We may have to deal with that in the short term.
Short-term and temporary.
Temporary short-term pain.
It's going to suck in the short term.
Some short-term pain.
Short-term pain. We have to focus on the short-term.
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 Short-term and long-term.
Short-term.
Hopefully, this is a short-term pain.
Short-term is highly outweighed of the long-term benefits.
Some short-term pain for the long-term gain.
Yes.
So everybody's singing the same tune in the independent media in America. So you can see what their people believe in, I guess. That's really sad.
Yeah. It seems to be the case. I can't see it being short term. Honestly, I don't see it. I cannot see Iran capitulating now. It's just unless it goes nuclear, then it would be short term everything.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Trevor's
nuclear,
got it right.
Then there will be a lot more destruction. Yeah. So
I think they got the wrong term. The long-term pain, short-time gain. No, the gains are in military-industrial complex. If you're invested in oil and oil services, oil supplies, then yeah, it's going to be great for you. But that is short-term gain for sure. And as far as Iran is concerned, as far as the Middle East is concerned, this is a long-term pain situation.
Yeah. Lindsey Graham said last year when Israel attacked Iran that Iran's war and destruction will be very lucrative and beneficial to America because we're going to get so much money out of Iran. That didn't happen last year. The war stopped. This year also, I see no reason why America could benefit after the war. America hasn't benefited. I mean, obviously, its industries have benefited in Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam. It has to stay there for certain years and then go back without making any change. Yeah.
I want to just bring another one into the Phil McLeod said this. China, people don't realize, and I think this is fair to say, China, in terms of its military, has this huge military parade, which somebody mentioned earlier on in the comments, and I saw that as we were talking. But this huge military parade shows what their technology was 1 or 2 years ago, not what their technology is today. And China has the Zhuhai Air Show, which showcases a lot of the modern technology. They also have a lot of organizations writing papers which don't get read by media. They get read by the think tankers, but they don't get read by media. And they have things, for example, China now has a technology where it can plot and map every single submarine in the world, everywhere, from satellites, using the cavitation created by the bubbles in the water when a submarine moves. It creates bubbles. Everything that moves creates some kind of displacement of the water. And this creates something that they can see now from satellites. They actually have this technology. So I think if they put China under any threat, I think it would be a little bit devastating. If we can use, that's an oxymoron, I know, a little bit devastating for America. I think that's a big problem. We don't know what China really has. So it's a good point to make, Phil. Phil goes on to say, I lived in Zhuhai, so probably went to the air show and saw those very things. I actually haven't been to that air show yet. I'm hoping to go one day.
But all this has done is it has also diverted attention from the Epstein files, and people are calling it Operation Epic Failure or Operation Epstein Fury, whatever.
Epstein Fury, yes. Like. Yeah, I've seen that.
So, and like I mentioned many weeks ago, nothing will happen. Nothing will come out of it because Americans are like that. So the governments are like that. And, there will be no accountability. And no one has gone to jail except Maxwell and Epstein.
I
There's
just
plenty
wanted
of
to.
evidence.
I just
Yeah.
disappeared a little bit because I'm going to put this one up again. The last one I'm going to put up from Mr. Mann. China has just recently launched more nuclear subs and currently has a fleet of 10 nuclear-powered submarines. So that's also wrong. So I'm sorry, Mr. Iman, you're wrong again.
I think there should be no nukes at all. But again, everybody's building nukes now. And again, what comes out of this, if Iran survives, then they may get nukes. And for them to get nukes, they can get nukes from North Korea or from Russia. So
Yeah, this is the thing, because Russia and China have both declared they're not going to share their nuclear. This is a non-proliferation. There is an international standard, and Russia and China are abiding by it. Now, if America was abiding by it, they would be having the Atomic Energy Commission running into Israel and saying, let's have a look at what you've really got, because I don't think there's any doubt now. I mean, there's no proof, but there's a hell of a lot of speculation that Israel does have nuclear power or nuclear weapons. Now, if they do, how is that allowed to happen? Because that is against international law or international standards, international charters. The non-nuclear proliferation treaty has not been signed by them. So what's going on? Why does America have that double standard? They say Iran can't have one, but Israel has.
Also, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said that we cannot allow Iran to have nukes. Australia says that, UK says that, Singapore says that as well. Every country says that. But there's no international law, I guess. If people are abiding by international law, there would be no war. This war wouldn't exist. And both Israel and America will be tried in ICC if people abide by international law. So I think international law is just an illusion that you can't have this, but I can. And also most of the laws are made by America anyway. So,
true, that's true. Well, they're not made by America. What's made by America is this rules-based order, which has never been written down and gets changed whenever they want to change it.
Yeah.
Before we finish, I wanted to I need to finish in about an hour today. I've got something on this morning again. I've got some visitors from overseas who are cycling around the region and they want to ride with me this morning. So in about half an hour, I'm going to head off down the road towards Zhuhai on my bike. But I wanted to just finish off with talking about the 2 sessions that are wrapping up today. What's the perception? What's going on in Australia? Is there any idea of what the 2 sessions is, what it's doing, and whether or not it has any benefit to Australia?
What? Sorry, I think you were cutting out.
Sorry, the 2 sessions is just wrapping up today. So I'm looking at Australians' response or Australian information. What are you learning about the 2 sessions?
I think so. Again, there are 2 sides to it. The foreign policy is being set by people who don't really care about public opinion or perception. So if you talk to Australians are very friendly. They don't really want war. But the leaders, obviously, they will go whatever America tells them to. And recently, I mean, there was landmark case in which the word Zionist was deemed as a hateful word, and the person who used that was fined by court, and he has to pay a certain amount of penalty or fine to a Zionist. I think a Melbourne Zionist, because he used that in a protest. He said that Zionists are terrorists. He is a Palestinian Australian. So we are seeing all these laws, all these policies being introduced, which don't really reflect public opinion. And I guess we're going to go into a direction where it can turn really bad for Australia, because from my point of view, Australia can be autonomous. It's a big country. It doesn't really need much from outside, except, what does it import from America? It imports airplane parts, cars, semiconductors. It can easily do so without being hostile to other countries as well. It produces its own energy. I mean, produces its own food. It's got resources in terms of minerals. It can be friends with China. China is the largest trading partner. So it can be friends with China rather than being
It
hostile.
ought to be.
Yeah. So I don't really understand the mentality. I know there's Pine Gap here, and there's a lot of American influence over here. But yeah, not sure what both parties are afraid of going against America. So I don't see
Are
anybody
you getting
standing.
any media that explains or describes what's going on right now in China with the two sessions? The two sessions is the
No,
is the, is
it's
the
I go on YouTube to find out, but yeah, in the mainstream media over here, no.
Oh, okay. So what's happening now in the two sessions as it wraps up? They're going to talk about the future and future industries. Of course, AI is one, quantum computing is another, biomanufacturing is another, and something that you'd be really interested in, brain-computer interfacing. So these are the four future industries. Now, 5 years ago, they talked about the future industries would be EVs, batteries, and solar. Those three future industries are now dominant in the world, absolutely, totally dominant in the world, like 80% of all the world's EVs and all the world's solar panels, probably more than 80% of solar panels and batteries are basically from China or Chinese. Batteries may be a little bit less, but pretty much China is dominating the world. This is what the two sessions does. It says this is how we're going to go forward. And then over the next year, they focus on those things with a massive amount of, they put investment in, they bring brains from all around the world, and they invest in those brains so that we can almost certainly say, no matter what happens in the Middle East, we're going to see AI advancing in China. We're going to see quantum computing, which is already happening, but is becoming an industry now as opposed to a research. Biomanufacturing, which is also very, very good for the world. And your particular field of interest is this brain-computer interface, I would guess. You would have very much to say about that.
Yeah. So just yesterday, I was making a list of people and universities to reach out to. It's very difficult to get information out of China. So there are many universities:
Sorry about
Shanghai
that.
AI Tech University, Tsinghua University, Lab of Robotics Oriented Intelligence. I made a list, and I have to keep talking to these people in case someone replies. The good thing about China is that they've got a lot of hardware, so you can go there, do your research, and experiment with actual hardware. And I was comparing it with Australia, and I was checking Melbourne University's robotics things, and they don't really have that level of skill set over here, which is why Australia is far behind when it comes to technology. I think Australia could be really better. They've got really smart people, but the investment needs to be made in right departments, I guess. But China is doing really, really well. And a lot of people from Stanford, MIT, Harvard, so they do their master's and PhD, Chinese people. They go there, and then they come back to Tsinghua University, Shanghai University, Shanghai AI Robotics Lab. And they set up research departments over there, which is really good, because what it does is you're connecting West with China as well. So there's research collaboration between the two, which is really good for peaceful, purposes, that you have friendly relations. It also transfers knowledge both ways. So that's how research progresses. If one side finds something, conveys it to the other side will build upon that. Not like what India did. India just not copied, they just bought Chinese robot and didn't even build upon that. They could have built upon that and put something on top of the robot or improved its intelligence system. And there's no shame in saying that. That's how research progresses. You take something and you improve that, and you say, okay, this is my innovation. This is the base that I've built on. But India didn't even say that. That was so shameful.
Yeah, they just put a robotic dog and a Unitree robot
Yeah.
in
And the
in one
moment
of
I
the
saw the dog,
trade
because
shows.
Unitree robot dog has a very distinct shoulder feature. It's very different to
Right.
Boston Dynamics robotic dog. Unitree robotic dog has legs coming out at the edge of the shoulders, whereas Boston Dynamics has somewhat inside of the shoulder. So I saw this doesn't look like India's made it. This looks like it's a Unitree robot dog, and it turned out to be a Unitree robot dog, which was really bad. Yeah, I do
Yeah,
want to end on one thing.
sure.
Is when people ask me, I say, you don't believe me, but listen to this. Let me know when you see the screen.
I was looking at a study the other day put out by Lancet, which is a scientific journal, and it asked what were the consequences of those sanctions. And we murdered 38 million people. 38 million people. The amount of havoc we have wrought on the Middle East in recent years is just stunning. If you think about the consequences of the Iraq War, what we do in places like Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, you understand we're using this tremendous economic leverage we have to basically starve people.
So yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
why people say, was there any genocide in India? I said yes. And then you have to
Yeah.
explain them how that genocide, systemic genocide happened. But this is just one example. Sanctions in Middle East in the last 40, 50 years have killed 38 million. Imagine what 100 years of imperialism did.
Imagine. Yeah. And Winston Churchill made no bones about it. He was quite
No,
clear.
he
It
was
was
overtly,
okay.
yeah. He said rats
Yeah.
need to die, they breed. So yeah, that's why I say
Yeah.
more than 100 million of us were
Mearsheimer,
killed.
I think we need to just put something in about Mearsheimer here. Yes, he is an imperialist. There is no question about that. But he's also a realist. He's one of the few people who can sit there and say, look at how bad we are for good reasons. And I don't think he kind of puts that into his head that this is wrong. As far as he's concerned, he didn't say it was horrific. He said it's stunning how many people, 38 million people we have killed with sanctions. It's stunning. Now, stunning to me doesn't sound like a very descriptive word for something that is so abhorrent, so horrific, so frightening. It's just stunning. I would describe the view behind me is stunning. When you wake up in the morning and that's what you see, that's stunning. That's a very different word to how I would use to describe it. So yeah, he is an imperialist. And one more thing before we go, we've got we've got over 40 people watching, and they're all regulars on my show. I want to just put something into perspective. I made a video a couple of days ago about India and whether India can be trusted. Many people, you should see the comment section on this.
Comments were saying no. I read the comment section.
Yeah, the short answer, no. Long answer, no. So, yeah, my video was not about whether or not I trust India. And if you go back and look, you won't see my opinion in there. You may see, you may perceive my opinion, but it's not in there. What is in there, the whole purpose of this was to show how media manipulates us into distrusting someone. Now, I'm not saying India are trustworthy or not trustworthy. And I know several Indians that I love very much. They're really nice people. As a government, I see no problem between China and India because at a governmental level, they're talking to each other. There's all sorts of issues going on, and there's legal things and there's taxation things. All of these things, yeah, they're true, and they do require some balancing, some nuancing. But the fact is, and I made this point in the video, media tells us we can't trust India, and we don't trust India or Indians because media tells us they can't be trusted. Media manipulation is working, and that was the point of the video. Not to say I lost some followers. I lost a few people who actually told me this. As a result of this, I'm unsubscribing, and I tried to explain this in the section afterwards. You're welcome to unsubscribe. That's not, that's neither here nor there. But the point is, this was not about my perception of India. This is about how we perceive India because of media manipulation. And that is a point I would like to get across to everybody who follows me all the time. We are not being truthfully informed, or almost anything we read about China and Russia in Western media, we can take with a grain of salt. Right now, anything we read about Iran and the Middle East, we can take with a grain of salt, which is why I like Chinese media so much. If they don't want to tell me something, they just don't tell me. They never lie about it. At least you know where you stand with them. So that was my engine thing. What did Faye say? He's not a realist. Well, that's true. He's wrong on China. I will say that. He's consistently wrong on China. Yeah.
Yep.
He's right about America, though.
Yeah, I mean, he lives in America. He suffered a lot because he criticized. He didn't criticize. He just exposed Israel lobby. He wrote a book, part of his research, and then he lost his job. The Israel lobby. I've got that book. It's really amazing. It was the first time anyone from the academics had exposed AIPAC and its influence on American politician, American government. That's why he suffered quite a bit.
Yeah. And I think in terms of China, Faye is absolutely right here. Let me just, he looks through a Western lens. He doesn't take into consideration Chinese history, which is one of the reasons I like talking to you, because you come from a different cultural background to Westerners who have this perception. And I'm happy to admit this. I spent my entire childhood, my teenage years, and my young adult years until I was about 45 years of age being misinformed. And as Kevin just put, we're not being told the truth. Oh my God.
But
and that's true.
The thing that surprised me was people don't really know that genocide, mass murder happened in China by the hands of Japanese. People don't really know that. How can you miss 20, 30 million deaths?
Well, China knows.
No idea what they teach in history books. So their history books are something really different. They don't know about Indian genocides and all that kind of stuff. I think they know about
well, that's the
World
problem.
War I, World
We're
War
reading
II
the wrong
from
books.
Western perspective. And they were surprised that China and Russia fought in world wars.
A lot of Americans now don't even know that Russia got into Berlin before they did.
Yeah.
On that happy note, I think we'll have to end it there, because I do need to leave here in about 10 minutes. So I've got to go and get ready and ride a bike. And I want to thank everyone, the nearly 50 people now who came in and joined us. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your super chats. And Ali, thank you very much once again for joining us.
For taking time to talk to me. Have a great day.
We're going to be doing this on a once a month basis with Jeff. And I think you and I, every couple of weeks, should be getting together to talk about a few different things. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. And we will see you next time. So it's time now to say a fond